Bucky Barnes the Winter Soldier was the newest character added to Marvel's Avengers, joining the game on November 29th of 2022. However, after news broke that Avengers would be losing support in 2023, it appears that the Winter Soldier might be the last character for the game. Now, a lot has been said about this character since his release, with some saying he's too similar to Captain America, and others saying that he's potentially their favorite character. So on today's video, I'm going to be giving my thoughts on potentially the last character added to the Marvel's Avengers roster, the Winter Soldier.
Stars and Stripes!
Hello and welcome to another Carrot Scraps video, and by another, I mean the 136th. So the usual disclaimer up front, this is not going to be a scripted review. Instead, it's just going to be my thoughts on the Winter Soldier and the circumstances around his release, in addition to a lot of the other details about the character. I do have a list of notes that I'll be referencing during the video, but just know that this isn't a scripted review. For now, this is just another better late than never early thoughts video. So just keep that in mind in case I get any details wrong in this video, or if I change my opinions in the future. In addition, if I do change my mind about the opinions that I share in this video and I don't feel like this is accurate anymore, I'll release a more thorough video that would be more accurate to my thoughts. I also wanted to mention that when I recorded this, I had just finished a shift of my new job, and so I was a little tired, so if I ramble a little bit more than usual, please forgive me. Anyway, with all of that out of the way, let's talk about the Winter Soldier. Now, I think the Winter Soldier is a character that a lot of people wanted to come to Marvel's Avengers. He's a character that I've heard a lot of people in my streams and even in just my comments mention that's the character they've been looking forward to, even mentioning that like friends of theirs they would contact and let them know. So I think there was a huge desire for Bucky to join the roster, but I got to admit, he's not a character that I've ever wanted to come to this game. I don't have anything particularly against the Winter Soldier. He's just not necessarily a favorite character of mine, but more importantly, when it comes to adding characters to Marvel's Avengers, the biggest thing to me that's interesting about the game is the diversity of gameplay between each character. You know, of all of the shortcomings of Avengers, the thing that really endears me to this game is how different each character plays from each other and how unique they are. And so when I'm thinking about new characters, I've always said I've wanted Quicksilver. I've always said I've wanted Falcon. Those two characters come to mind because I think, first of all, I just think they're cool characters, but more importantly, I feel like their gameplay is guaranteed to be interesting because their powers are so odd, and with the kind of template that you get with Avengers, and the template that they've created with the way that they design combat, they could have a lot of fun designing around those powers. And so my mind always goes to characters with interesting power sets. And the thing with the Winter Soldier, again, he's a cool character, and he has cool abilities and all of that. And you know, he's got cool and interesting skills, but at the end of the day, you know, we have characters that are similar to the Winter Soldier in Avengers already, and so I always wanted to see somebody different. But that being said, even though this wasn't necessarily the character that I would have asked for, I was still excited and I was still open to getting this character and enjoying this character. The Black Widow is another character that I am not necessarily, or I was not necessarily in love with, right? They were never a character that I hated, but they were never a character that I was head over heels over. But when it came to Avengers, when I started playing Avengers, I enjoyed her combat so much. You know, she was my favorite character in the game, and I enjoyed her combat so much that I ended up becoming endeared to that character, and now I would consider myself more of a Black Widow fan. And so I was excited to have that happen with the Winter Soldier. And so with all of that being said, I really love the combat for the Winter Soldier in this game. I think he's a lot of fun. I do think that he's similar to other characters, but I also think that there are a lot of details that make him more unique than the characters that he's similar to. He doesn't feel like Jane Foster to Thor Odin's son, right? He feels like his own character with some big similarities. His rifle really does make him more of a ranged character, I feel. I play the Black Widow a lot, and while I do use her guns, I don't feel like that's what I'm relying on. I don't feel like my gameplay is centered around using her weapons, and maybe that's just me, but that's not how I play Black Widow. But with the Winter Soldier, even though I do like getting into people's faces and punching and kicking, I've found that for me, the biggest hits that I do are with my rifle, and I find myself relying on that and the three different types of bullet types that I have, and then of course the combo using the shotgun. I just find myself using that gun more and more frequently, and I think it does a lot of damage, and I think it's a lot of fun to use, and I think it's an interesting addition to the team. I think when I'm playing something like the raid, it feels good to be giving that kind of support from far away, with such quick shots, with such fast repetition when it comes to doing damage. I have a lot of fun with that, but I'm also very aerial. Like, I feel like I jump around a lot, and I'm also firing at the same time, and it feels like a good combo to me. So I really enjoy playing as the Winter Soldier, and I do feel like he adds something unique to the combat when it comes to looking at the entire roster. I also just think that he's cool. Like, I genuinely think that the Winter Soldier is cool. I don't know if I have the same new level of respect for the Winter Soldier that I did for the Black Widow when it came to Avengers, but I do think that Bucky is really cool in this game. I like his bizarre gun. I heard a lot of people who didn't like the way that his gun looked. I've noticed that I guess there are people who are just into guns like that. There are people in my audience who will look at gun renders in games and kind of criticize them, or want a more faithful I guess model. I don't really know that much or care that much about guns. I definitely, when it comes to superhero stuff, care more about fictional and unique stuff. So for me, seeing a fake gun in Bucky Barnes's hands is way cooler than seeing a real gun. I think it's way cooler that his gun is this new, weird, fictional gun that has like 4 different guns built into it. I just think that's awesome. And getting to run around with that weapon, it's part of, when I think about playing a character and I'm like, oh, I want to play as Bucky, I think about that gun and how cool he looks using it and how much fun it is getting to use it. So I think they did a really good job with designing his combat, but designing that gun and the way that it looks and the way that it feels. And I guess, they achieved that power fantasy, because clearly I enjoy running around the field taking out aimbots with this, weird science fiction gun. So I think that's really cool and definitely a highlight of the character for me. When it comes to his heroic abilities, obviously we have one that is very similar to one that the Black Widow shares. I don't necessarily have the biggest problem with it. Obviously, I would have still preferred a new heroic in its place, but it doesn't necessarily bother me. I think it's fine. I guess it makes sense for the character. I don't know. I have much else to say other than I would have liked a new heroic, but it's not the end of the world for me. When it comes to his assault heroic, I feel like that one makes a lot of sense for him. I find myself using it quite a bit to take out a bunch of enemies at once, or to bombard a bunch of enemies at once. I really enjoy throwing that down, and that's an important part of my gameplay, so I like that assault heroic a lot. And then the ultimate heroic also works pretty well. I feel like it's a standard, massive power-up, but I also like the knife gameplay that works with it. I'm a big Bleach fan, so I like those Getsuga Tensho like style slashes that come from the knife. I think that's really cool. I do think that the starting animation is a little odd for that heroic, where he holds his head. I understand what's happening and I understand the point, but sometimes it just doesn't feel like it works with the voice line, or it doesn't feel like it works with the scenario. I feel like it's one of the few times in the game where just the animation feels like kind of odd. Again, I get why it's there, but for me it doesn't necessarily work. But the ability itself is fine, and I enjoy using it. An odd detail about the Winter Soldier that was added a little bit after his initial release was this Winter Soldier event that would essentially allow you to get your character to power level 175, so that way you can take on the cloning lab at the appropriate level. And I gotta be honest, it's been a while since this was released, and I'm still not entirely sure how I feel about this. On one hand, I appreciate the help. I think that it's cool that we were able to get this character to a higher level so quickly, so that way players could experience that content as quickly as possible. But on the other hand, I just don't understand why this was only released for the Winter Soldier, and why this was only implemented later in the game's life. I'm sure a lot of people would have appreciated events like this or challenges like this earlier on with other characters. So I don't know, it's just another one of those details that feels really odd to me, but at the end of the day, I do appreciate it, especially when it comes to, releasing this character for new content so similarly, released around the same time. Even though this didn't come out on the same day as the character was released, I think in the end it was still appreciated that it came out. And those are my thoughts on Bucky's general gameplay. I do think that he's unique, and I like what makes him unique. I definitely pick him over other characters because he adds something new to the roster, which always makes me happy when it comes to new characters being added to Avengers, but I also do see the similarities that he shares with other characters, whether it's in passing or whether it's a little bit more specific. But I don't think that it damages the character or that it takes away from the character. I think he's a well-designed, interesting, and fun playable character. It makes me happy that so many people are excited about his addition to the game, and of course, it makes me happy that he's so cool and he's a lot of fun to play. So with gameplay out of the way, let's talk about some of the presentation of the Winter Soldier. When it comes to Bucky's iconic design, I think they did a really good job with the character. Again, as usual, they make him unique enough for you to recognize that this is their version of the Winter Soldier, while still being similar enough to draw parallels with other more popular versions of the character. I think the coolest thing about his iconic design is the red accents throughout his costume. I think they pop really well, and I don't know, it's just a really cool look for him. I love the arm, and I think they did a great job designing that metal arm that he has. And I also think that they've done a great job making multiple metal arms for Bucky in the game. I'm kind of surprised by how many different versions of his arm they've added to the game. There are multiple different skins that have different versions, and it's pretty cool. There are a lot of really interesting designs here, and it's fun to see and compare and contrast between all of them. I'm really happy to say that when it comes to cosmetics for the Winter Soldier, we got a pretty great collection of skins for him day one, and we've gotten some other interesting skins from him since that launch. But I think the biggest thing that makes me appreciate his skins is the fact that Jane Foster didn't have as many when we first got that character. I can't stress enough how disappointed I was by the amount of skins that we got from Jane. The ones that we got looked great, but it was really strange and surprising how few skins we got for that character. And so I was very apprehensive about the release of the Winter Soldier. I had this feeling that we weren't going to be getting many skins at all for him. But I was, to my surprise, I was wrong on that. We got a lot of really cool skins day one, and a good mix of skins. We got some skins that we could buy from the marketplace. We got some bundles that we could get, and we also got a lot of skins that we could earn from the cosmetic vendor to shipments, and then of course recently the specialty shipment. We've gotten a good number of skins for Bucky Barnes that I think are really cool. Oh, and don't forget the Battle Pass, the hero card. There are a lot of really cool skins for Bucky, and a lot that change his look pretty drastically. A lot of looks that are taken from the comics. We have some looks that change his hair. We have some looks that are recolors, which is fine. I've always been fine with recolors, but I think they are always going to be more appreciated when you have a good palette of different skins to choose from, whether it's references or whether it's just new assets. Getting those other kinds of skins makes recolors a little bit more palatable for people, I think. And we also got his MCU skins pretty quickly after the release of the character. And to my knowledge, we also got kind of the first appearance of selling multiple different types of skins, kind of with toggling masks, I suppose. Multiple skins with different masks and different parts of the costume on. The MCU skin for the Winter Soldier had 3 variants, and it was the completely maskless, there was the face mask, and then there was the face with the goggles. If you got them together in one big bundle, you saved a little bit, and then they were kind of marked individually at the same price. I did think that marking them all at the same price was a little odd. Obviously, getting it with the bundle was the best deal. I don't know what the best approach there was, but I do think that the option is cool, and I like seeing that you have so many different options for that skin. A lot of people have been asking for that feature for a while, or have been asking for these options when it comes to skins in the game for a while now. So I am curious as to why they waited this long to do this, but it was cool to see nonetheless, and I do like these skins that are able to, mix and match different aspects of it. But in general, I think the Winter Soldier has some really great looks, and I really like the range of looks, from, again, comic book references to the MCU reference, to just original skins that look pretty cool. I really like his old school I'm in jail costume, and then his new school I'm in jail costume. I thought those looked really great. Now, when it comes to story, once again, I'm happy that we got a little bit more than what we got with Jane Foster when it came to Bucky's hero event. We got something a little bit more similar to what we got with Spider-Man when he was released, where we got these kind of simple cutscenes that helped illustrate what's going on with the character and helped put him in communication with the heroes that we're familiar with and characters that we already understand. And it was nice to see them in these scenarios, connecting with this new character. I feel like that really helps make, playing this character more interesting and helps integrating him to the world. It makes it a lot more coherent and a lot more fluid, and I appreciated that they put the time into doing that. It really shows how having these kinds of cutscenes, even if they're simple by comparison to some of the bigger cutscenes in the game, really does help add to the experience. I love the codex audio files, I love listening to them, and I appreciate all the work put into them. But that being said, it does add more to the story when you have these cutscenes, and I feel like I know a little bit more about the Winter Soldier and the way he interacts with this world thanks to their existence. Now, all of that being said, from a character standpoint, it's really cool that we got these cutscenes, but from a story plot standpoint, I feel like we didn't really get anything tremendously deep or even really that interesting. The hero event feels like a very basic surface level story that doesn't have too much depth to it. It feels like a very stereotypical adventure for the Winter Soldier, a very surface level conflict for him to interact with. And I feel like the interesting stuff about the story comes more from how he interacts with the characters, which is fine and interesting, but I just feel like the story isn't super fascinating. It's not really the big hook, which is kind of a shame. I wish that they went a little bit further with the story that they were telling. Another example of the story not really working for me is that they introduced these romantic details between the Black Widow and the Winter Soldier, and this is something that I think is really interesting and that I would have liked to have seen explored. But instead, again, it's just this surface level. We do get little glimpses of what could be depth, but we don't really go too far deep. And I just think that's disappointing because I think there's a lot of opportunity to have something interesting there. Now, in addition to all of that, when it comes to these hero events, I'm just a little disappointed that we're not going to have other ways to restart these stories and re-see these cutscenes in the case of Spider-Man and Winter Soldier when it comes to playing the game again. The only way to see these cutscenes like the animatics is to restart the game, and I would prefer not to do that. Before support ends for the game, I would love if the developers found a way to restart these hero events so that way I could see these cutscenes more frequently or at least more easily. And I just think it's odd that we're not able to at the moment. There are a lot of cutscenes in Avengers that we really can't see again because we've only been shown them once, and that's honestly a shame. In addition, while I love the voice actor who played Winter Soldier in this game, game, and while I think they did a great job, I don't necessarily love the overly aggressive version of this character. I definitely think it was an interesting choice, and I'm glad that they took the chance on it, but it just felt a little too angry at times, and it didn't always work for me. Specifically when it came to a lot of the codex files, I just felt like the Winter Soldier was a little too angry. But that's just my preference. Again, I do appreciate them taking the chance with that, and I loved hearing that the voice actor was so excited to explore this version of the character, and I'm glad that they allowed him to do that. I think that's something really unique about this game, is that a lot of the actors get to really get into these characters and kind of give their thoughts on, you know, what direction they're given and where they can go next. But that being said, again, I understand why Bucky is angry. I totally get it. It makes sense to me. But sometimes it just felt like a lot. And maybe it's just my preference, but I wasn't the biggest fan of it. And so those are my thoughts on Bucky Barnes, his gameplay, the presentation of the character, and the story that came along with him. It's kind of somber talking about this character because I essentially know that this is probably going to be our last character for the game. I was really hoping that we'd get a couple more characters before the game wrapped up, but unfortunately support is ending this year, 2023, which probably means we're not getting anybody else. And I don't know how I feel about this being the last character added to Avengers. Like I said, this wasn't a character that I would have chosen for the game. I would have chosen many other different characters first. But on the other hand, there are a lot of people who really love this character, and not only the character that they got, but you know, just this character from the comics and from the movies. People have been asking for him specifically to join the game since the start of the game. So for some, I feel like this is the perfect send-off. For me, not so much, from a story standpoint, but also just a character and a gameplay standpoint. I would have liked somebody a little bit different. I would have loved She-Hulk, you know what I mean? But in the end, he's still a really cool character. He's still a really interesting character. I think the writers and the gameplay designers, the devs, and the voice actor did a great job bringing this character to life, and it's a great final piece of content to end on. Of course, there was still other content added with this character that I definitely want to talk about in the future, and even beyond any new content, the end of the game's support does not mean the end of my coverage of the game. I still have a lot to talk about when it comes to Avengers, from the interesting to the obscure, and I'm really excited about the future of talking about this game. But as for today, that's going to do it for this video. I want to thank you so much for watching. If for some reason you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like and to subscribe to my channel for more. As regular viewers know, I make a variety of content on my channel, and I'm always going to make the videos that I want to make. But if you see something you enjoy, make sure to let me know, and I'll try to prioritize that kind of content in the future. Over on Twitch, I typically play superhero games like Marvel's Avengers, Marvel Snap, and Gotham Knights, with the occasional horror game like Resident Evil. So if that sounds interesting to you at all, make sure to check me out on Twitch at twitch.tv/carrotscraps. And all my other social media, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram are at carrotscraps as well. So I want to thank you again so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. We're testing our microphone because the mic keeps shutting off. Technical difficulties plan themselves. They make little plans, the technicals, and then they plan their difficulties on the perfect days to make me very frustrated. Thank you, technical difficulties. This one's for you.